Hello guys, so this week we're coming to Okayama International for the Sim V8 Supercar series. Um, so just gonna do a demo lap here, walk you guys through the inputs and the corners. So over here starting with turn 1, we're going down 3 gears, go down to 3rd gear, and you want to look for this Dunlop bridge as your brake marker, or the 100 board. I'm getting on the brakes pretty much right as this board here pretty much matches the top of the car on the roll cage. So you want to get hard on the brakes. The track is pretty smooth here, so you can get up to about 75% brakes here, and then hold it all the way through as you go down the gears. Um, and then you want to look for this little Marshall stand here on your left as your turn-in marker. So it's very important to hit your turn-in here just right. You want to aim for a late apex on this corner so you can get back on the gas as early as possible. So you want to come in wide, hold as little as you can on the brakes, on the trail braking, and you want to avoid as much as you can this lock-up light here. So you're going to make sure you don't lock up your inside front. You want to come off the brakes just as you turn the wheel, just like that. So as you're turning the wheel, you want to come off the brakes. I probably did a little too late there. That's why I got a little bit of lockup, but I don't think it hurt me too much. So as you hit the apex here on the exit of the corner, you actually want to be a little further to the inside than I managed this time by. So you want your right wheels to be right on the curb, um, right at the end of the curb in here. And also by this point, if you are on the right line, you can already be picking up the throttle. So right there, I'm a little late on the throttle because I was wide. I want to hold about 50% of throttle until the car settles down. And you want to come all the way wide here on the exit. So let's go real time. Alright, so coming up to turn 2, you want to come across the track. There's no need to get all the way over there. So the most important thing here is to have the car settled when you get back on the brakes. So you don't want to be turning right as you get on the brakes. So if your exit here is bad, it's actually better if you just stay in the middle of the track instead of trying to go all the way over there, because you're not going to get the maximum out of the brakes if you try to brake while turning. So just make sure that the car is settled on a straight line before you get back on the brakes. So here, um, you want to be looking on the right side. You want to use this stand here as your brake marker and also your turning point. So here we're braking and turning at the same time. Um, so this is why we're not going to be able to go nearly as close to the same throttle brake percent as we usually go in brake pressure. So just very low on the brakes. As you can see, just a quick stab, about 30 to 40% brakes just to get the car rotated, and a little bit of trail braking. And then you also want to aim for a late apex here. So you want to leave about a car's width over here. I got back on the gas here, but this was too ambitious, so I had to back out of it because I was too wide. So just had to wait for the car to come back, and then I get back on the gas. Again, missed it a little bit. You might want to be a little more on top of this curb. As you can see, even before I touch the apex, I'm already holding 50 to 60% throttle right there. And then here you can go up pretty early if you get the line right. And you can use pretty much all of this curb. You don't want to go too wide because the grass will pull you out. Alright, so right here, this is actually pretty, it's actually not that straightforward in a V8 Supercar. So You're actually right on the edge of grip here as you turn left through this kink and then right. It's not that straightforward. So yeah, so you want to make sure that you do this as straight as possible, and this gets very tricky if you're forced to take it too wide. So if you're going too wide, racing for a position, then you just really have to practice on how to take this if there's a car to your left, and how to take this if there's a car to your right. And you just want to be mindful of these two racing lines merging together for this braking zone. Um, so right here, coming up to effectively turn 3. Um, this is a very tricky corner, so you're going downhill. There's not that much grip, so you can't really abuse too much on the brakes. Um, for my marker here, I don't actually use any marker, I just use the actual track. So basically, as soon as the curve ends, that's when I'm getting on the brakes. As you can see, 50 to 60% brakes, not as much as turn 1, because this is downhill, so you don't have that much grip, especially on the rears. The rears are kind of light because of the elevation change. Um, I am taking this in 3rd gear. You might be able to get away with 2nd, for at least for the entry. Um, so here, I like making this a double apex corner. So I'm hitting the first apex right here, right on the entry, so taking it tight, hitting this curb right here. I let it run wide, and as you can see, as soon as I'm off of this curb, I'm getting back on the gas already. So, and then we actually want to use this. So we're using this throttle position, which is about 60%, to actually help the car rotate. So we're right on the edge of the rear grip, and that makes it kind of light. So we're just making it rotate through the remainder of the corner. And I even give this a little stab here because you have grip here, but then as soon as you go over this bump, as you saw right there, as soon as you go over that bump, you kind of lose grip, so you have to kind of lift a little bit for that bump. So it's playing a little slow motion. So getting back up here to like 85%, then I back off a little bit because of the bump, wait for the bump, and then I'm back up again and 100%. And if you get this just right, you actually don't have that much track here. So you want to aim for it here to be your exit. You don't want to be anywhere near that board there, the RS board. You want at least a car's width over there, because if you're too wide here on the exit, you have to lift. You won't be able to hold this line here full throttle, and you're most likely losing time. So just play this for chopper, because this is kind of a tricky corner, so you guys can understand the line better. One more time. And if you get this exit just right, you're gonna be able to go full throttle pretty much right here, right as this curb ends. And as you can see, even on this curb here, you want to be very far to the inside. The track actually has camber here, so if you're too far from this curb, you don't have any camber, so you're losing a lot of grip by going back there. Alright, so coming up to the hairpin, probably the best passing opportunity. So a couple of markers to look for. This is a lot trickier than the other corners because there's no marker here. There's the 200, but you're breaking way past that. So you can use, there's two markers you can use. There's this fence here on the right, and then there's this little thing here on this fence, which is harder to spot. But if you just try to line them up with your wiper, it's you, right before they meet. So in slow motion, it's a little easier to see. Like right as you're coming up to that, right before they meet, you get hard on the brakes. Um, This is a very tricky braking zone. You want to make sure that you get clean downshifts. The trick in this car to getting the downshifts clean is to blip after you've clicked your shifter to downshift. So as you can see, when the N pops up here, that's when you want the blip to go in. If you blip too much, if you blip too early before the N goes in, then you're actually accelerating the wheels before it goes into neutral. So it might still downshift, but the rear is gonna get locked up and it's not gonna be good. So just make sure that you click before you stab on the brake on the throttle. So this corner, there's a lot of camber here. So a lot of camber through this corner. You can actually carry more speed than you might think. So you just want to avoid at all costs, you want to avoid locking up the brakes, because if you lock the brakes even a little bit, you're not going to have as much grip. So if you take this the right way, you should be able to carry a lot of speed through this little corner because of all of the camber. Um, you don't want to trail brake too much here. Just want to really focus on carrying all the speed. And I see a few people going too too much on the steering angle. There's no reason to go more than just like this. Like this is the most you want to give. And you see, I'm only going down that far at the very apex of the corner. So on turn in, I'm just giving it 45 here, and then over here I get to 90 at the apex, and then I go a little further, but only for a brief second. And then I'm already back on the gas. As you can see, right at the apex, I'm back on the gas. You might want to exit a little tighter than I did here, but this line here is also fine. So second gear, going up here, very hard to control this wheel spin. As you can see, I'm modulating the gas for a long time, pretty much all the way through the gear. After the tires wear a little bit, you won't even be able to go full throttle like I did here. As you can see, it's for a very brief moment, and right after I'm back on the brakes. But lap 5 or 6 of the stint, you probably don't want to go past 50% on this little downhill. Let's look at this corner in real time. Alright, so coming up to this, probably the trickiest part of the circuit, these two corners here. First, you don't need to go all the way to the right. You just want to maximize your traction here, so just stay as straight as possible. No need to turn too far to the right. Just make sure that you get the best possible run out of here. Put as much power down as you can. Very light on the brakes here. Very, very light. As you can see, I'm barely getting to 25%. You just want to get the car to turn in. This is also off camber. The track is going downhill. Very easy to lock up the brakes. That's why I'm very light on them. This is really just assisting the front to grip and rotate. So, and then as soon as it starts rotating, you want to grab third gear. So I'm grabbing third gear even before I hit the curb. You can cut this curb a little bit so you can pretty much place this curb in the middle of the car. Like that. And as you can see, I'm already up to third. I put third even before I hit the apex. So right there, it's when I shift. And at this point, I'm already giving gas. There's no need to trail brake. If you try to trail brake here, you're only going to lock up the inside front and you're going to lose grip. So you want to make sure you do all your braking and trail braking and rotation before. And then just progress through here with throttle. So a little bit of modulating here. Even in third gear, you still have to modulate it. So 50 to 60% throttle. Wait for the car to settle down. It's a little lively here. You can go all the way over this curb and the AstroTurf. You just don't want to go any further than that. There's no grip on the sand trap. So you can get this far. It's fine. Now in this corner, I'm holding third gear here. I feel like the car rotates nicely even in third gear. The trick here is to hit the brakes and turn in before this curb. If you wait to hit the curb is gonna push you wide and it's not gonna allow you to turn in. So it's gonna mess up your line entirely. So make sure you brake and turn in before the curb. So as you hit the curb, you know the car is already transferring the weight, so it's not gonna push you offline. Okay, so let's just play that back. Hitting the gas nice and early. I took a little too much curb, so the car was bouncing around. But if you just slightly hit this curb here, you should be able to give even more gas, so about 30 to 40%, and then just modulate it through. Now the sequence of corners, the slowest part on the track. Um, you can brake pretty hard here in the beginning, going down to second gear. Here you also want to aim for a late apex, just so you can have as straight as possible of a run between these two corners. Um, you can trail brake here if you manage not to lock up the tires. So want to make sure that the downshifts are clean so you don't get in here sliding too much, because that's going to mess up your exit a lot. So holding second gear, as you can see I'm picking up the throttle halfway through the corner. Here you have very little traction, so only 20 to 30% all the way until the car is pointing that way. Then I get up to 50 to 60%. Again, I was able to get away with going full throttle here for a brief moment, but only because the tires were so fresh. So if the tires are not fresh, you most likely want to hold this sort of position all the way through. Just like turn 2, there's no need to open up over here, so do not try to go left because you're just making the track longer. This car is going to give you a lot more speed accelerating and braking in a straight line. So opening up here, there's no benefit whatsoever. So as you can see, I'm just going to go straight and brake hard. So I'm straight giving gas, and I'm straight getting on the brakes. So there's no need to open this arc here like you would in some other cars. So also just holding second all the way through, a quick stab on the brakes up to 50% or so. Turning here, aim again for a late apex. You want to make sure that you hit this curb right at the end of it, and you want to make sure that you're getting through this rotation as quickly as possible, just so you can shoot out straight, get on the back, get back on the gas as early as possible. And so you want to aim for the end of the curve there. That's where you want your exit to be. So you don't want to take this corner too fast, so you exit right here. You want to exit in a diagonal line, so you can put all the power down. Let's watch this section here again. Time. Alright, so here I am getting up to fourth, just before turn in, because I feel like fourth is better to hold the speed here. Depending on your tire wear, you might want to stay third and even give a little bit of brakes to get the car to rotate through this corner. But the perfect line is to do this with only a lift of the throttle and holding fourth gear. So you want to look for this Marshall stand here as your turning point. Again, there's no braking here, just pretty much lifting and turning in. You want to hit this curb. You don't want to go too far, because if you go too far, I believe if you get two wheels on the other side of it, I believe you get a slowdown penalty. So you just want to make sure that you stay to the left of that. Just look it from behind. Just a little lift, and then back on the gas right at the apex. Also, another thing to notice is that this is your pit entry. So just make sure when you go into the pits, that's where you want to go into the pits. Stay to the right of that line. If you get in here, you get a penalty, unsafe entry penalty. So right as I'm hitting the curb, I'm getting back to 50 to 60% throttle and just progressing it through. Again, I held fourth gear all the way through there. Last corner, just going down one gear and also aiming for a late apex. It's kind of like turn one, really. Late apex. Late apex, get nice and early on the gas just before the apex. Actually, I did it really good this time, so I'm very early on the gas, as you can see. So very early on the gas. Track it out all the way. Use all the track here, all of the asphalt surf. Just don't hit the descent trap because there's no grip there, and you also might get an off track. And then just go up to the gears. That is a lap. So let's just watch it on cockpit. Alright guys, so that was our video tutorial for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you have any questions, just let me know.